So guys, welcome back to the NFT Talks podcast. And today I have got a real special guest, considering my OG within the NFT space. I would say NFT collector, NFT creator, but I don't think he does him justice just calling him an NFT collector because he's been collecting pretty much everything he can get his hands on. But I'd like to welcome Fran as our guest today. How you doing, bro?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. I know like you're a busy man and you've been very active in the NFT space, and I know that for me from my experience firsthand, because I came across you more so on Instagram as a guy, just anything that was dropping last year, you was the guy posting about it, and you had
Right.
at least four or more of it talking about the experience and whatnot. So before we talk about all the things you've done and you've achieved so far, just give me a bit of a background on yourself, because I believe this isn't the first time you started collecting. You've been collecting for a while, right?
Yeah, I've pretty much been a lifelong collector. Really young with Beanie Babies, and a little bit older, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic the Gathering. I've always collected and traded it. It's a collection that you could wear and start conversations when you're, out and about. I couldn't really bring my Pokemon cards around with me showing them off or anything like that. And so really early on in 2008, I started uploading sneaker reviews on YouTube. At this time, it was pretty much unheard of. Now there's whole industries around it, and it's the norm. But many years ago, it was definitely not the norm. And so, yeah, I did that. And then later on, I transitioned into starting my own footwear brand and got some legendary collaborations with like BBC, Jeff Staples, to name a few, and did that. And in 2017, started going down the road of crypto. I got in right at the top last time. And so, I think I started buying Bitcoin at like 11,000, and then a week later is 19,000. I was like, yo, this is crazy. And that was the top. And so I actually stuck with it, and my thesis remained the same. Just like anything, when I get into it, I'm really like obsessive over it. And so watch every documentary, every interview, anything I can find on Bitcoin to learn about Bitcoin crypto. And in this time I would hear about NFTs, and I was like, oh, that's a scam. Just someone trying to take your crypto away from you, and all they're giving you is this like digital picture. Like, what is this? Yeah. And it wasn't until last year the VV app released licensed digital collectibles. And so Batman, Powerpuff Girls, I come from like the nerd world, so all of this connected with me. And as well as playing online games like World of Warcraft for over a decade. These digital assets in this game, a decade ago were $60, and now they go for, 5 figures. And so I've already seen what happens with digital collectibles that stay in pristine condition, can't be damaged, can't be flawed over time. I've seen what happens with that. And so I was ready to make that leap once I saw the Batman NFTs and stuff like this. I saw that this was kind of the future, and so many applications for gaming and pretty much anything else. And so it excited me just as much as Bitcoin and crypto did years before. And so I jumped all in last year.
And when you say you jumped all in, you really did jump all in, because I can't imagine your collection that you've got with NFTs. But what would you say? Would you say that was, did you buy the Batman, the VV Batman's first, and that was your first NFT? Was it, or?
Yeah, I was on VV for about a month, and instantly I was trading and stuff like this. I was literally walking around the market with 2 phones, doing broker deals and stuff on NFTs and stuff. Like I was nonstop with it, and I was flipping there. And it was about a month later I got on to OpenSeas, and about a month after that, I think, is when I got my Ape and my CryptoPunk. My CryptoPunk was like, the first really large purchase, because you got to remember at this time Apes just came out. So I think the Ape was like $1,000. And so the CryptoPunk, I spent 30K on it with the hopes of that asset appreciating to 100K, and it did so in like a month and a half. And so I probably sold it too early, but I ended up selling that once I reached my target with it, and that was the first like big flip in the space.
What's your stance? Okay, so now you mentioned about flips, to when you entered the space buying NFTs, to how you approach buying NFTs now? Is that your same intention? Are you looking to make money, or are you buying for utility now? Now you've been involved. I mean, yeah, tell me, what has it changed over time, or it's just still the same?
So I do go for both. I go for utility and I go for flips, and each project I have a different approach. Something that maybe just mint it, I'm probably going to look to flip it, and something else with like legacy behind it or a proven track record, like example Artifact. When that released, that's something I knew I wanted to hold on to. And then especially after the announcement that Nike acquired them, that has all the signs to me of something worth holding on to long term. In my opinion, Nike sees what Yuga Labs did with Bored Apes, and they're going to want to match it, if not surpass it, as much as they can by adding value. And so each project I approach completely differently. And yeah, I still have fun flipping, even on Solana as of late. I'll grab something for 1 or 2 SOL and flip it for 6 or 8 SOL or something like that. And I definitely enjoy both aspects of it. Yeah.
Which which has been the most exciting part so far for you? Because I mean, you being a collector, from collecting like straight sneakers, streetwear, then now you're slowly starting to see the streetwear culture enter the space and do collaborations like we've seen Bobby Hundreds with the Bored Apes. That was one of the first big collabs I've seen when it comes to streetwear, and there's been a lot more with our French Montana Coke Boys entering and whatnot. So what's the bit, what would you say has been the highlight for you so far when it comes to that world meeting NFTs?
For me, it's the fact that I've been able to get involved with it. I came from streetwear and sneakers, and so with the Bored Apes, one of the awesome things is the IP rights. And so I was able to do sneaker collaborations. Even the shirt I'm wearing today features like my mutant and my ape, and this was a collaboration with Nicky Diamonds. And so really, NFTs across the board, they level the playing field in a way that hasn't been available. First, you could say level the playing field with just acquiring art. Last year when art blocks was popping off, people were selling stuff for like close to or around $1 million, and it's just something they minted 2 weeks ago. And so really, we didn't have access to these rare art collections or anything like this. So, or an artist be able to get into those art galleries in the first place. So it levels so many playing fields for the collector, the creator, and even someone who wants to jump in. Maybe they've already killed it in legacy brands. They really have to adapt over here because it's a completely different mindset. So again, it levels the playing field for everyone, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that too, man. Tell me a bit more about, I don't want to kind of brush over it because that's a massive achievement that the collaboration you had with obviously Nicky Diamond, like as a old school OG brands kind of into the space. Why did they come to you, Fran? Why was you the chosen one?
Yeah, so I've known Nicky Diamonds for many years, and so very early on, a lot of people in the industry were reaching out to me, really just to kind of learn more about Web3. And Nicky Diamonds was one of those people at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. calling me up, like, wait, so what's mint? And like, really just going through all the ropes of it. And, that's fun for me. And so, he got in, he grabbed an ape, I think grabbed a mutant, grabbed some gutter cats and stuff like this. And, we would often be on the same spaces, just that connection of streetwear and stuff like this. And so after one of the spaces, we got on a call, and he's like, wait, so what was that you're talking about with the IP rights and everything like this? And so I kind of explained it, and it kind of went from there. As we collaborated as well. He reached out with a couple other ape holders. So there's multiple holders involved in this collaboration. So, multiple people with the membership were already putting their apes to use through this one project. And now he has a wave 2 that I think just dropped or is dropping with a completely different list of holders. Again, just kind of adding value to someone who already had the asset and was already getting airdrops from Yuga Labs. Now they can go ahead and in between those airdrops, go ahead and do collaborations, whether it's in TV, food, clothing, music. We've seen the apes used in so many ways, and it really just scratching the surface so far.
Yeah, I want to hear your insights on like I've got my how I see things potentially going with in the future with sneakers, NFTs and sneakers, collectibles. As a sneaker collector, what role does NFTs play? Is it a positive, or is it a negative in regards to trading?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that it's already starting to play out, and probably ways that we can't even imagine, even like what StockX was trying to do with the fact that you never even have to receive the actual sneaker. You can buy the NFT of, like, let's say the new Travis shoe, and a month later it appreciates by $1,000 or whatever. You never had to receive it, ship it out to them. You have a basically like a redeemable pass for said sneaker, which you can redeem it or sell it. I think that has huge implications. And then what Artifact is doing, the fact that you're buying this digital sneaker, that, you know, that already has its own value and its own utility, and you can still redeem it for the physical and have that in your collection as well. I think that's amazing. And I'm sure there's ways that brands are going to be using it that we haven't even thought of yet as well.
Yeah, I'm really interested about that, the fact that you can trade, because obviously when you buy a sneaker, you don't want to wear it, don't you? And because you want to hold the value within that sneaker. So with the thing with StockX, I think Nike were trying to sue them, weren't they? Because they were doing it with Nike.
Yeah.
But I mean, but the concept of it, if you
concept.
an NFT and it represents ownership of this trainer, it doesn't have to leave the safe, and you can trade it instantly. So you almost could do instant trades, and if you get it first, you can trade it, make $100 or $300 off it from someone across the world. I think it opens a global market too for collectors. But is that a good thing? If it's a global market, more people get access to these trainers. Is that good for them? Is that good for a collector or bad?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing. Any new tech pushing this forward, I think, is good. And also for me, another big reason why I made the leap over to NFTs from sneakers is you always have people flaking. And with NFTs, you know, you have it listed, you know, that exchange happens instantly. If someone wants your asset, they're switching over the crypto for it, and that happens instantly. And so, yeah, I mean, that alone is just already a game changer. Now, the fact that, you know, like we said, you don't even have to receive the physical good in the first place. There's just so many ways that this is changing everything. And really, I think NFTs, that's what NFTs are, is just like, that's how we're going to be doing transactions moving forward, is it's going to be on the blockchain, and there's going to be a track record of who got what, when, and how long they had it for.
Yeah. And I mean, so I want to go a bit more about yourself personally. Obviously, you built a name for yourself. I consider, like, within the space. Obviously, you've been rubbing shoulders with a lot of people, a lot of the builders. They will come to you, and like you said, you had collaboration with Nicky Diamonds. I've seen you at VCon. I mean, have you had conversations with Gary V? Have you connected? If so, what?
Yes,
what kind of conversation with them?
Yeah, I haven't connected with him. I actually met him once at Complex Con. Again, when I had my footwear brand, his booth was like right next to ours, so I met him then. But yeah, and that guy's been inspiring me for years. Even when I first started YouTube, at that time, he had just put out a book. I think it's called Crush It, and it was talking about social media and stuff like this. And so, yeah, I've been following him closely since I got into Web 2, really. And so, yeah, very inspiring, and I think it's so dope what he's done with his project. And even like you mentioned, VCon, you know, the fact that we're already seeing sporting arenas not filled but being used for these things, it shows that we're still early, because there's potential for that to grow, where the whole arena is filled with one type of audience for a project, and there's just so much potential. Really, I walked away from that event really inspired, just because of the possibility ahead, and how everyone is just as fascinated and just as excited, but no one really knows what's on the other side yet. And so I think that's the most exciting part is, you know, when I started YouTube, there was no way for me to know the connections I'd be making or the collaborations I'd have or anything like this. And that, you know, that was just part of the journey. And I think in that same way, that's what lies ahead with Web3, is there's so much we can't even imagine that's coming. We're just so early.
So is that Fan Fest on the cards then?
Yeah, you know, so I do have my own NFT project with Sneakerpunks, and so I do want to have real life experiences and stuff like this. I don't know about a Fran Fest, but you know, probably meet up at a bar or something at least. So yeah.
So let's talk about the metaverse, Fran. Like, obviously, what's your thoughts on that's a major buzzword, so broad, means so many different things. What's your thoughts? How do you think NFTs and metaverse works together, and what does it look like for you in the future, potentially, like in regards to your involvement, at least, anyway?
Yeah, so like I said, when I got into NFTs last year, I've been a lifelong collector, and one of the first things I did is I had all my original. I've been an obsessive collector my whole life. So the original Super Nintendo games with their booklets and the little plastic pouches and the boxes.
Yeah.
From Super Nintendo to PlayStation and on. With Nintendo and stuff like this, I had some of those games and I traded it in, and that was the first time I ever like lost my collectibles or my assets. And
Yeah.
since then, I kept all of it. And so when I got into NFTs last year, I sold my whole video game collection. And the reason being is I think this changes gaming forever. I think that's what Metaverse will do, is the fact that you have these digital assets that will transfer with you from, I don't even know what gen we're in with gaming, gen 7 to 8 to 9 or whatever. You'll have these same assets that carry on in pristine condition. And so I think gaming as we know it changes. Even with games like Fortnite, when that first came out, I was collecting all the skins, each new skin. Oh, got to get that skin, but I don't own it though. I don't own it. I have the license to use it. And, Fortnite 2 comes out, they probably won't be transferable. Most games it isn't. Maybe with all this Web3 stuff, they happen to be transferable this time around, but in general, that's not usually a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say, if you listen to any other podcasts, I talk about the gaming side of it, and the thing that I say, the amount of hours I spent on games, and you mentioned Warcraft, the amount of hours we spend playing games, and when you're ready to stop playing that game, you just leave everything in there. Whereas if you're able to collect and gain and build, and that could be either sold on at a later stage, so you're getting some financial benefit for your time that you spent in that game. I think that concept's amazing, because at least you're getting something from it,
Yeah.
Hours I spent playing games, so that's what I love about it. Like especially like GTA, like when you're building character and you're buying buildings, and if that was worth something as an NFT that you carry on, that would be amazing. So I look forward to something like that happening.
All that's coming for sure.
So I want to know a bit about conversations. Like I said, you're in circles. What are you looking forward to in this year? I mean, what would you consider the next big thing that's really going to kick off? Obviously, at art, that's been obviously the spearhead, if we're going to call it, all this crypto art and whatnot. But what other things are you thinking that really going to take off this year? That will be background.
Yeah, it's hard to say what exactly is going to take off this year specifically, but we've been talking so much about gaming. That's really, to me, that's the thing I'm most excited for. And like the other side, they're going to have their alpha or their beta in July, so I'm looking forward to that. I was able to get the alpha land for having the Bored Ape, and so they've showed the little teaser clip of it so far, and we'll have to wait and see. There's already so much speculation. Are the resources going to be something that we generate that we can sell? There's already NFTs like Cyberkongs, where they're generating banana coin for the Genesis, and then the babies are generating NFTs. And with those NFTs, I'm already selling those NFTs. They're generating every like 4 or 5 days, and so that's every week. Basically, I'm getting an NFT that's worth about $100 to $200, just generating passively. And so you can imagine if other side is able to be anywhere near as successful as any of the top, 20 games or whatever, you can imagine these assets that are just generating really having some potential value there. And so I think that's really exciting to me, is playing a game and passively earning through it.
Okay. And if you talk about a project, and I've got a feeling which one you'll go with, but if you talk about an NFT project that you feel that has done it right consistently over the period of time that you've been invested within the space, what project would you say would that be?
Yeah, there's some projects that I really like that I think have really been kind of slept on, and some of those, like Cyberkong, like I was mentioning, Cool Cats, and then also even like on lower price points, Galaxy Fight Club. They already have a beta of their game, and originally the pitch when I minted it last year was it's supposed to be like the Smash Brothers of Web3. Now it's more like a like League of Legends or like a MOBA type game, but still the fact that you can plug in your Bored Ape or your Cyberkong or your Cool Cat or your Galaxy Fight Club characters and fight and level that up and earn weapons and upgrade those weapons, and that's already existing. You can play that now, and so I think that's a project that's really getting slept on. Another project that's even at a lower price point, non-fungible heroes. Right when I saw them, the artwork was amazing, but now their partnership with Non-Fungible Films, the fact that there's going to be show based around these characters, now you could potentially have a character that's in the show, and how much will that appreciate the asset, and so on. And so there's a lot of projects that have been consistently building and doing it well and pushing the space forward. And people, they say they want this utility. Well, it's here, and where are people at for it? And so, yeah, it's funny.
I feel like it's the utility argument is okay. Everyone wants a utility, but then it's all about, can the team deliver on that? I think that's an important thing, because especially at the start last year, a lot of promises in regards to we're going to do some roadmaps, and then nothing. It's just kind of gone blank. So, and I'm sure you probably even come across a lot of them projects too, being an investor. So, what would you give advice wise for anyone that is wanting to get into buying PFPs, particularly? Looking at roadmaps, have you got any strategies in regards to, like, okay, then this is what I do to make sure or try and avoid?
Other than Bored Ape's IP rights, I honestly, for the first year, hardly, if ever, looked at roadmaps, just because what you said is like so many, people could say whatever to sell out a project, but how are they going to deliver? And so I actually didn't really use roadmaps. It was the art, it was the community, it was the people talking about it in the spaces, how passionate the people were, how much the developers were getting in the spaces. It was really more of a visual of what was going on with that audience and that team, rather than what was the list of things that they promised they were going to check off the box. And so, that approach worked and failed for me multiple times. And I'm sure other people use roadmaps and that worked and failed for them. It's really what you feel comfortable with. But for me, roadmaps, I laughed because everyone had the same thing: metaverse, yada, 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 yada. It's the same list of stuff. And like you said, many of them didn't come through on that. And some did, like Cyberkongs and Cool Cats. And when they said there would be a game, there is a game. Sure, it's not like, a game like how we would think of on an Xbox or a PlayStation, but early PC games, early RPG games where it was a quest where you'd select, and now you're doing those same actions, only now you're earning their token for it, which, potential utility, minting future projects from them, and stuff like this. And so at least they have built something that's functional and working. And with Cyberkongs, I know I've mentioned them a lot, but they really do have multiple utilities. With playing the game and I unlocked a physical hoodie, or playing the game and I unlocked another NFT, and stuff like this. And so I think they really make it fun to mint, because really what it comes down to is you're still just minting NFTs, but you're doing it through a game. So
yeah. On the flip side, Fran, I want you to kind of give your kind of insights on for projects, because I guess it's going to be a lot harder for a project to come out now. And we're talking about PFPs because it's a saturated market. There's so many projects dropping every day, and the type of collectors, like I'd consider, if you call them first gens and whatnot, in regards to the boom, like you're a rare breed. Like, you're a collector through and through. You understand. I remember seeing you tweet about when the Bored Apes did the game. And you were tweeting. You said you said 24 hours on the game or something. You were smashing it out.
Oh yeah, not 24 hours, but yeah, a lot of time for sure. Yeah,
you're putting in time. So people like yourself, it makes sense, and you're doing what they say. But as a, what would you call it? As a mediocre collector, something like that serious, but wants to I want to have a little dabble and see what's going on. How do projects bring in the masses and get it right?
Yeah, it's really hard to say how projects bring in the masses. I think on the opposite end, if you're someone who's looking to come in for the first time as a collector or whatever, I think Twitter Spaces is the best way to really learn what's going on. And not just that, honestly, even growing your reach, because just spending time in this, you don't even have to go up and speak. Just spending time in those rooms, you'll be gaining followers. And then even more so if you do get up there to ask your question, and maybe you're not wanting to go up and speak, someone might have the same exact question as you. So honestly, I spend a lot of my time in Twitter Spaces. I've learned a lot from it too. I've already been in the space for a year, and can't even count the number of things that I learned just from being in there, whether it may be your first time minting from a contract or whatever it may be. There's a whole bunch of information in there to learn, and someone out there probably has information you don't have, so it's worth learning and networking in that way. far as bringing the masses in, it could be gaming, it could be something that we don't even know yet that really is that driving factor. We mentioned Gary Vee. He actually brought in a lot of people. A lot of people came in through his release, purchasing Ethereum for the first time just to get his NFTs and stuff. And so will there just be one catalyst? I don't think so. I think it'll be multiple. If you look at crypto, there's multiple things. I know for me with NFTs, it was the Batman thing, and then the $60 million sale from Beeple caught my eye for sure. And so some people that didn't catch their eye for whatever the reason. And so it's hard to say what that one catalyst will be. But I think it's projects continuously building and continuously innovating and pushing the space forward. I think over time it'll bring people in.
Yeah, and one thing I love about the NFT space, Fran, is being able to connect to pretty much anybody from all different walks of life, famous, established, anybody. Like it's been crazy, and that's from my experience. So I'd love to hear your experience of like if there's anybody that you thought you would never meet or you would always love to meet that you've met now due to what's happened over the last 2 years within the space. Who would that be?
I don't know if there's any like one person, but I definitely fan out for sure. Like
2 or 3.
I fan out for sure. And even I don't know, I spent a lot of time in the spaces. So even the first time I met Farouk, I was like, oh shit, this guy's he's a legend and stuff like this. And even meeting a Logan Paul and stuff. Last year at NFT NYC, just everyone was there at all these events, and I'm sure it'll be the same way this time. And so, just like I said, Twitter Space is a great way to network. These type of events, especially NFT NYC, just because everyone comes out for it, is such a great way to network. And even taking it back to the sneaker thing is one of the first ways that I really made connections. Back in 2009, I think it was, I flew out to Atlanta for, there's a blog, there still is a blog, The Shoe Game, and they had their 3-year anniversary in Atlanta at a Nike store. And I flew out for that. And that really opened doors and made relationships for me early on with, people like Mayor and DJ Clarkin and DJ Greg Street and, Premium Pete and all these people. And so, really just getting out there and meeting these people and shaking hands. You never know what comes from it. And so it's very important is, stepping outside of your comfort and really going out there to, if you're passionate and you want to learn more, getting out there and making those connections is so important.
Yeah. And it seems like you're the guy to kind of do that. You kind of, I can see it from from stories and people that mention you and whatnot. You make them relationships with people and people seem to like you. And what I want to lead on to is that I remember you dropped a project and it was taking pictures of your sneakers, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that, because everyone will find why would I collect that? But just tell me your story and why you created that and the success you had with it.
Yeah, so basically at that time there's always different metas and stuff like this. At that time there's a meta of these model chicks taking pictures or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I collect sneakers and I've been posting what I wear every day for years, decade, a decade and a half or so online. And so the idea of a collectible, someone who might already follow what I'm doing or whatever, they might want the Travis Scott one, and this one has an 8-figure there and the other one, and I just kind of try to do almost random traits, it was just a fun collectible. I think if I remember correctly, they were free to claim or $1 or something. It wasn't really anything to profit off of. It was more just experimenting in Web3 and having fun with it. Like I said, I've been a lifelong collector, so if I can create something where people are excited to collect and trade, I'm happy to do it. And that's also what Sneakerpunks is a digital collectible. And so I took that video game approach with the 8-bit art style for those. And that first collection really did see a premium running up into the V2, so that people were able to have early access and mint passes for that. And so, just building the space, creating the space has been a blast. Just as someone who's already collected, created in the Web 2 world, bringing that over to the Web 3 world has been a lot of fun.
So what have we got this bit for you in the future then, Fran, in regards to big collaborations potentially, brands? I know you're probably having conversations. Anything you can talk about, or anything you can give a hint about what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, so I do have collaborations coming in, like the realm of food and stuff like this, and hopefully more sneakers to come as well. And so there's a lot of stuff being worked on, and just excited to keep building in the space and keep pushing it forward with new projects in Web3, whether it's digital assets or physical.
I'm going to dig a bit deeper there, Fran. Well, food, you said. So not
Yeah.
any conversations with Andy by any chance, or?
Yeah. So although yes, that's actually not who this first project will be with or anything like that. But yes, I have talked. I actually talked to him early on and kind of sat down with him about Web3 and letting him know about the utility of the Bored Apes and stuff like this. So I'm sure he was speaking with many people at that time, but I think I was one of the first people he met with to really push him, like, yo, you should definitely be grabbing a mutant, and explaining why, and showing him the food service worker trait for the mutants and stuff like this. And so that was back in, I think, December or January when I met with him. And then now, just months later, him opening up the restaurant, it's awesome to see that progress in such a short amount of time.
Crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
So I want to know a bit about what's the craziest thing you've seen in the space? I mean, and when I say like crazy, I mean bizarre, like not financially, but just, I know there's a lot of things going on great, but there's some weird things that happen too also that something that I don't really get. What would you consider the weirdest thing that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's weird or just like troubling or disheartening, is just all the scams. And there's so many different ways of it, whether it's people sending items to your wallet, because it is a public wallet after all, and it might have a 1 ETH offer on it, and you're like, oh great, let me accept this 1 ETH offer, and now you've just signed your wallet and everything gets drained. Or you might click a malicious link and it gets drained. I have a childhood friend, I've known him since 4th grade, and he switched over all of his Bitcoin to buy other side land. He got that land, that's his biggest NFT purchase, and just 2 weeks ago he got hacked, and that's gone. And so, you know, there's a lot of opportunity in Web3, but if you're not careful, there's a lot of things that can go wrong too. And so, you know, really, if you're going to jump into the space, you really got to be cautious, because someone's looking to make a buck off of someone else. And in this case, you know, a buck could be 5, 6, 7 figures. And so it's really, again, there's a life-changing opportunity, but you have to know what you're doing and be really cautious and careful with your approach, for sure.
100%. I'm very passionate about that, onboarding people safely to the space and creating a best practice. I think that's, people need to kind of just, before they go buy anything, they just need to understand the simple things, like not clicking on links. So simple, but it can cost you if you click on the wrong. So important, bro. 100% agree with that. Just before we round it up, a question that I asked to everybody, to kind of tap into their minds and see how they see the future is, let's go forward the next 10 years. I want you to describe a morning when you wake up, and how does the world look involving NFTs and the metaverse? Like, so you wake up, your alarm goes off, you wake up, what's Fran doing, and what kind of things are you using?
Yeah, so, you know, with crypto, it's been over a decade and we haven't seen full adoption. It's way more popular, way more well known than it was before. And so part of me wants to say it'll be on that same trajectory. However, I think these things speed up. I think these things speed up, right? And so in 10 years, will Bitcoin be a lot more adopted? I think so. Will NFTs be at a higher adoption rate? I think so. I think we'll have new devices, you know, whether it's an Apple VR headset or something else. Maybe it's a Yuga Lab device. Who knows, right? There's so much potential out there, but I do think that idea of interoperability reaches us. I hope gaming is more willing to do that. You know, the brands we know, I was talking to my girlfriend about this, is how, like, we know the Microsofts, the Sonys, and the Nintendos, but right now these brands have an opportunity to maybe dethrone one of those brands, and maybe those brands end up like Sega because they didn't adapt quick enough to this new world. So I think, you know, there is a lot of changes in the devices we'll be using. It may maybe even the brands we see in 10 years. Some might be making it in a way that we couldn't have imagined, and some might have fallen off because they weren't willing to adapt. And so in these paradigm shifts, a lot can change, and I think a lot will change.
Yeah, and that's a great ending. A lot can change, a lot will change. I believe the same, and I'm looking forward to everything that's going to be happening over the next few years, and I'm sure you're going to be involved with that too.
Yeah.
Fran, thank you for coming on and blessing the podcast and just giving us your insights and talking about your journey so far. And hopefully we can get you on later down the line when you've done all these next partnerships at the end of the year, and like we can talk about everything that you've done. But
Awesome.
where can people find you?
Yeah. First off, thanks for having me on. Anyone who is looking to follow, I'm in multiple places. So on Twitter, that's Franelations23, Instagram, that's Franelations, and I also have my Sneakerpunks project. We have a Discord for that, as well as a Twitter and an Instagram. All of that information can be found in the bio of the Franelations accounts. And yeah, this space is a lot of fun. Anyone who is somewhat curious, I definitely do recommend doing your research and jumping in with one NFT and just kind of seeing how that works out. Is I think the best way of learning is really getting hands-on. You can hear about it and you can see it, but until you own that digital asset, our brains are already trained for the past 20 years to be looking at digital assets and just imagine, oh, it's free, everyone can look at it. What do you mean? Really, once you click that purchase button, I think that's when it starts to sink in, and who knows, you might thoroughly enjoy it. So it's worth taking that leap.
I love that. It's a good ending, man. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in, watching and listening. And everyone stay listening and stay blessed.